Hey everyone, welcome back to Tuesday Tea with me, Alisha Bowker Mudrock. Today I have a great guest on with us, Meira. She is here to talk with us even further about really capitalizing on this new year and new energy and old energy and everything in between. So I'm going to let her sort of introduce herself, let us know where she's coming from, what she's up to, and then we're just going to dive right in. So welcome. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I think I should start with an admission that even though I'm a Brit, I'm not drinking tea. I'm drinking coffee. Okay, is that all right? Is
Me
that?
too. Yeah, I don't even really like tea, but tea sounded better with Tuesday. So
I think it's not a good idea to start the year off with a lie.
I
All
love
right.
that.
All right.
Honesty only.
That
It's all allowed.
that's where I'm starting. So here's what I'm going to say. So I was thinking about I had to do an introduction for something else, and somebody wants to know all the things that I've done. And I have to admit, I don't like that question, because sometimes we get it's sort of like, what do I do for a career? Who am I, or whatever. So
Yeah.
I just had this to say, in my reflection, what I came up with is that I've actually had like a number of different careers, and I've realized that through the careers and the circumstances and the life events I've had and the activities, nobody would have intentionally designed that as a course of anything, right?
Mm.
So it's sort of the question just sort of prompts me to think, how do I string that all together so it makes sense? And so what I would say is that my experiences have made me adept at like shape shifting. And I think I'm a culmination of those experiences. If you want to know what my careers were, which I don't define myself by careers because
Yeah.
it's also the activities and the relationships in between, and that's all that going on. But I do feel that there was well, I think I should mention, career-wise, the things that I can remember as I've been a business owner, I had a pet store, um, and that was really from desperation, to be honest. But one of the experiences that influenced me was being in Manhattan September 11th, and
Oh,
literally
wow.
the world stopped like the next day, and there was shape shifting to be had, and
Yeah.
I felt like, well, I don't think things are going to be localized anymore. I immediately thought about connection. I thought I want to do something where I'm not stuck in a place. And so I ended up coming up with this online business. But
Okay.
say I was a lawyer at the time, a business lawyer, a contract intellectual property lawyer, and a lot of business dried up. And so, I mean, I was still practicing, but I had my eye on survival, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so, but I noticed I'm also went back to school some years ago because I thought, but what do I really want to do now? And there was kids in between who
Yes.
was, and I didn't let the fact that they were small. I didn't really think that through. That my kids were both in diapers, and then I went back to school.
You're like, this will be great.
But there was a theme of when I look back, and of course now I'm doing coaching, and so I'll put it all together. There's definitely themes of like advocacy. As a
Mm.
lawyer, even though I was a business lawyer, I got multiple awards for like pro bono work. I love being in communities. I love being where the people are and being responsive, and I think that's something that stayed with me. And
Mm.
I'm very much about. I think also from my own experience that those of my ancestors and my people who were scattered all over the place. That sounds a lot more. They're not in one place. They don't even look the same. But I think I'm really attracted to themes of empowerment. And I don't like the idea that you're just stuck with the cards that you are dealt. I
Yeah.
absolutely believe I'm not just being jolly now. In fact, I'm a bit of a
No,
cynic being. Well, I mean, maybe I meant somber. I don't know. I haven't had all
you're a
my
realist.
coffee right now. Yeah. Well, it's just that I'm not being Pollyanna-ish, and I'm not like being hyped up about it, but I definitely think there's wiggle room for us. And it pains me that people can live in distress and not realize they
Mm,
have the
yeah.
means to shift.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I say. I don't really know what the end's going to be, but look, I'll step in the journey with you, and I have seen this. I've seen this personally. I've seen others do it, and I want to share that. I'm at the part of my life where I really want to share that. And so, how am I doing that? I have found more flexibility as a coach, and I'm also narrowing down kind of like my audience loosely because I feel like I want to sort of really become sophisticated in a particular area rather than
Yeah.
sort of spread it thin. And for various reasons that we don't have to get into right now, I really do a lot. My work as a therapist, but also as a coach, is for autistics, ADHDers, and audit. I always stumble on a word because I was like, get it right, right? If you have both, it's ADHD, okay?
Okay.
And uh, actually, that gets a little bit rarer because it's not the same thing as like autism plus ADHD. It's really, I think in some years to come, they're going to have a new designation.
It's like its own
Yeah, it's
diagnosis.
its own thing. So that really is something that I might even sort of just focus on that. But to be honest, there's lots of overlap as well. So I really am about helping people. I definitely introduce people to a lot of I'm worried about saying like tools and toolkit and stuff like that. And I'm also worried when people ask for them, because sometimes, I'll be honest, I suspect people want a quick fix, and I don't want to be I don't want to be
Yeah.
gimmicky. But
Yep.
yeah, but what I do say is that, listen, if you can't think of anything, I have a starter kit that I pulled from a lot of clinical experience, right? These are the things that seem to work for most people. We will start, but I absolutely encourage people, for a number of reasons, so that you can build autonomy and confidence, that you make these your own. I'm there to support you to design the lifestyle that works with you. And that's why it really appealed to me when I saw your challenge. I have to give you a plug for your challenge.
Okay.
That I love the blend of mind, body.
Yeah.
Being whole and not separating yourself out. And I feel that a lot of our distress is parceling ourselves out into these separate things that are very artificial and don't work for us. So I'm here to give people permission, not that you need it from me, but I will start that.
Oh, it's helpful.
Help to create the life that works for you, because you know what? You only get one. You only get one. And let's not just sort of sit and wait. I think people are so overwhelmed on autopilot. They can't sort of even get that wiggle room to even realize, wait a minute, I don't need to live this way. But they don't really know where to start. I'm here to help them do that. And specifically to that end, like I try to make my services accessible. There's a variety of them. So you can come to the entry point. And so one of the things that I do right now is like offer workshops to educate people. So I don't want to talk too much because I know this is a conversation, but I get really excited.
No, I love it. I think you've said some really powerful things that really resonate with me, a lot of the work I do, and kind of how I'm thinking of this year. I've been framing it for my audience as sort of like the year of you. And I just wrote a book that I published in November of last year, Leading Lady Energy, really stepping into like that leading role of your own life and not just settling for the supporting actress role or not believing that you're worth that, right? So that idea of not settling for what you've just been given, for actually recognizing that maybe there's more to step into or that there's more growth to be had. And so I guess as we're thinking of a new year with new energy, it doesn't have to be these like resolutions or silly goals that don't make sense, but just coming from your perspective and your wealth of knowledge, what might be some helpful places folks can start in just thinking about what like empowerment looks like, or how to kind of begin to unpack what it would mean to step into a different level of life than maybe what they're living now?
So I think my background as a lawyer, and also I was a philosophy major. So I like to sort of, I like to step back. People do step back and look at big picture. Because sometimes we're down like in the, I don't want to say, sometimes we're down in the weeds. And sometimes it's a tree, but sometimes it's the weeds, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to do a little shout out to mothers here. Can we just pause and just feel that? Because I think a lot of times they just get the brunt of like almost everything and don't get a lot of the recognition. So sometimes in my mind, I'm thinking of the mother, but I'm also thinking of the mother who's neurodivergent, is autistic, ADHD. And I think that's not really well understood. Then if I put on that maybe you're a person of color as well. Okay. And the likelihood that your children are, you need help, girl.
Yeah.
Right. And so I really want to be that place. So anyway, where to start? So this is the tough bit, the start is really, we need, I like to start with broad strokes. People want this thing and to fix, but you know what? It's, I jump in and out of different metaphors. And the two that I like, even though I know nothing about cars, other than that they get you from A to B. Right. And I like nice ones with cup holders. I'm that woman. Right. But I also like the idea of like saving and money and everything, right? So it's sort of like, look, if you want to expand your income, because you have to, there are needs and this, that, and the other, or you just, you like shiny things. I like shiny things, I'm not gonna lie. you can't keep spending everything you have. It's not going to work. And people might say, please help me, but I can't fudge that bit for you. You're
Right.
going to have to make it like contract a little bit. So we have some wiggle room. And then with that extra $2 that you put away, we're going to make $4 with that. But we're not going to go too fast. I'm not going to promise you $800 with that $2. But if we could just so sometimes I'm going somewhere with this,
Yep.
I'm really about focus on, and these are the words for me for 2025 to focus on, right? Flow,
Mm.
energy,
Mhm.
direction,
Mhm.
contraction, and expansion.
Mhm.
So I find when we think in pictures, it's
Mhm.
easy to kind of get what I'm saying. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to give you like a whole big chunk of words. I'm going to say, I know it's tight right now, and that's where I think it sort of feels. So what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, and tight is whatever that is to people, but I think people on an instinctive level know what I'm talking about. They feel that. They feel
Yes.
tight
Especially
and rigid.
these days.
I love that you do Pilates because I feel like we have both gotten to the same place, but you might have come from a different place because truth is truth. That's
Yeah.
why. And I'm like, has Alicia been listening to me? But it's because we're listening to the world and we know, like,
Right. It's a pain point for many people, regardless of like where we live or where we come from or who we, it's a very shared experience that people are
yeah.
needing an answer to. So yeah.
And by the way, I know this is a little bit outside my lane, but I absolutely believe you can also do this broad stroke, right? Not just with some of the things that I'm talking about, but if you have to start with your body and you don't have words and other things and energy, you can start with your body.
Yeah.
As is it tight? Loosen it up because
Yes.
guess what? You're connected. If you have flow in your body, it's going to make this work better. And then you
100%.
be able to receive what I'm saying. So start with whatever makes sense to you. Just
Yes.
start, but think in terms of uh, um, we're going to loosen up the contraction. And I'm sure in your world, not that I know much about Pilates because I haven't been exercising for a while. Okay, but um, but you can't just launch it. Someone can't just who hasn't been exercising or just launch into where you are. You're probably gonna, right? You get
Right.
like,
Yeah. You want to ease into it. You want to understand. I think the first step too is what goes to point of that, like, especially with Pilates, the first step is just learning to connect to your breath and being aware of how that works and all the types we have, which then moves into simple movements. Like your first intro to Pilates is not some insane class. It doesn't need to be. It could be so small and be so powerful because everything is so connected and we live so disjointed in so many ways. And so it's really about bringing that together, that flow. What is my breath doing throughout the whole body? How does my
yeah.
abs on while I'm doing a bicep curl? What's my feet do? Like everything comes together, that flow that's natural, but we ignore it. And same with these other flow states, it sounds like you're talking about too.
Yeah.
Like they all
So
do go together, but we have them in all separate boxes when they don't need to be.
So I caution, and this is in keeping with the whole idea of traditional New Year's goals, don't make a sweeping big change if you feel like you're approaching burnout and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Little, small. And so here's my question. What feels the most comfortable, if that's the word, safe,
Mm.
whatever works for you, where you can like direct the energy to start? And
Mm-hmm.
so using now it's the same, by the way, it's the same thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, right? Where in your regular routine can you find some wiggle room to just step out? And one of the things I'm recommending for oh my peeps, my neurodivergents, is that we do well slowing down and finding some place of quiet. Okay,
Mm.
in particular, autistics. That's one of my messages, right? Is that it allows you to rejuvenate, but also um, sometimes that's how a lot of us process, right? It's not in the middle of the conversation.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes we're just downloading it. And then later on, we're kind of like, wait, this is what I think about it, or what just happened there. So broad strokes, right? So that we can focus. And then I'm encouraging exploration,
Mm.
right? And then thinking about, and what are we focusing on? Think in terms of energy,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of mapping out in your own way. Don't need I can offer devices or ways to do it. But the key thing in a broad way is mapping out what is your energy flow like? Where do you have your peaks? Where do you have your valleys? That's
Yeah.
this order of business, because if you're going to start something, I don't want you to start something, what is your energy like? Because this is part of it. Sometimes we spend too much energy on a little thing, right? We don't get much restorative in between. We're too structured about it or too loose. And so I'm going to repeat again, pull back, find the entry point, right? And start looking at what your energy is like. Because sometimes when people say, I'm exhausted, even in a day of exhaustion, there's a part of it that might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
That isn't.
Yeah.
And that is the start. So we could start getting back on, that's where we're banking some energy. We're going to start banking energy, right?
Yeah.
You really start there before you start figuring out what you want to do with it. You see, that's the thing with New Year's resolution. What do you want to do? I don't even know where I am.
Right. Right.
But
no, yeah. That awareness is essential.
Yeah, get back, focus first to sort of getting back online, having a sense of composure, agency, right? Then we can talk about, and then it could be, that's going to then start thinking about what it is you want to do. And I also suggest, just one other thing that kind of goes with that, stop thinking in these really long timelines.
Yeah.
And by the way, sometimes we don't do that. Everybody does that. And you're like, I guess that's what you do. If you don't have a lot of energy, get through the day. And what I find works for a lot of my clients, so a very specific strategy, have some kind of planning tool, and it doesn't have to be pen and paper, but break whatever works for you to break even your day down then into quarters. They have so little energy, they can't think about a year. They can't think quarterly. They can't think month. The week is even too hard. That's about mapping out where are you at? Are you in every day and just trying to get through the week? And is the day so exhausting you can't think about tomorrow? Then break that down. Break things down into the small increment that you can manage. Okay. And then, that might be a lot right there that I've said.
Yeah. So no.
That's where I start.
Well, and I'm thinking too, this idea of exhaustion, to go back to that. And I think just as like something else that people can maybe visualize or think about is, there's two different types of exhaustion, right? A day when you used your energy well and efficiently and you're exhausted, but there's still like, it's like a good exhaustion almost, versus an exhaustion of like, you really depleted yourself and really set yourself up for fail, right? That you were doing, I just actually posted something today. It's kind of like meant to be kind of funny, but also serious, where I was like, I don't take workout classes before 7 a.m. because I wake up awake, but I am not, you don't want me to coach you at 7 a.m. You don't want me to be a therapist at 7 a.m. You don't want me to teach you Pilates or be in your class at 7 a.m. Like, it is just not the time. I need other things then, right? So I'm not going to set myself up for exhaustion or failure by trying to like force appointments and classes at 7 a.m. Like I have that ability and luxury, but I know that about myself. So I think it's like you said, knowing yourself well and what is your energy, and that's going to change. Like for women, it might change throughout the month. It definitely changes in seasons, of ages, of times of the year. Like
we talk about menopause,
or just your general flows. Like if you have babies, if you're postpartum, if you're pregnant, like and men too. Men have hormonal stuff going on as well. But like we're not the same person every day. So.
Moment though, there's women. This is what I'm going to say. It's 20. Where are women? It's still a mystery. So I want to get. It's not like I'm warped in that. It's just that I'm just saying that's a thing.
Yeah.
Right. The research doesn't include them, and then sometimes when it does, they're very young. What about? Sometimes we see this culture, and I don't like to get into us and them, but this is a thing.
Yeah.
Women over, gosh, I don't even think it's 40, 30. It's like a your expiration date. We cannot continue to live as though you have a 30-year lifespan.
No.
You're going to hit it. No. Especially longer. So here's another thing I just want to throw in.
Yeah.
Is that because sometimes I think certain rules, we need to sort of like that in that moment of reflection, think about the rules that work for you now. I'm not big on affirmations. Let me just say something quickly before people. the thing is, sometimes people use them like rote, like they're sort of mad, like they're pixie dust. Look, yeah, they're very good, but you have to believe in it. If you
Yes,
don't, you're just lying to yourself.
nothing. Yeah,
So that's why I like these moments of reflection, like what really works for you. That doesn't mean you can't aspire to something, but it has to be reasonably within like who you are. You can't take somebody else's aspiration and it just doesn't even work for you. And then of
no,
course, no divergence. So one of the things that I find, which I'm lending from my starter kit, I don't want to tell people what to do, just like, hey, if you need something,
an option.
this one, I thank you for understanding that. Is look, you've got the one life, right? Now, I don't want to get spiritual stuff because maybe you have several, but the one that we know 100% is the one
The
that's
one
here
we're in right now, at least. Yes.
right now. And we don't, why wait until everybody gets it, right? They might not get it
Yeah.
for years. So here's what I encourage people to do. Create, by the way, which I saw people doing during COVID, create your own pod.
Yeah.
Create that's another see, I can't always do it in order when you tell me. I'll come to you like 15 minutes later in the conversation. But think about creating your own pod. You just suspend for a bit, changing the world. You can do a lot, changing your little neighborhood sort of thing. Not literally neighborhood, but maybe, right? By creating your own pod. It's amazing how many people don't realize that their trauma, attachment stuff, neurodivergence has sort of operated in this sort of unintentional way of creating it's like you're creating this world that's just mirroring back to you what's inside, and you sort of had a hand in that responsibility. So I want to wake people up a bit, but they probably have a little bit more control than they realize, just to be more intentional, because some of that's on survival mode and automatic.
Right.
To sort of look, leave a footprint there and think about leaving a footprint, and who are the people in your circle. Again, not wide sweeping changes. You're dead to me. You're dead to me. Look, let's come. But I'm just saying we can think about who we let in. Let's get out of our like mini network where we're just recycling the same kind of stuff. What's fresh and different out there that might light me up in a way where I'm like, oh, there's a part of me that was latent, and I didn't even know that. I didn't even know I was good at Pilates, maybe, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Kind of thing. So wait, the mantra was, you don't have to wait for somebody to rescue you. You can leave your footprint. Okay. Might not be immediately apparent, but just then at least put in the idea, the taste that, wait a minute, maybe things aren't just fatal and inevitable.
Yeah.
What not know? What have I not yet been exposed to?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just gentle, and gentle is the other word for 2025. Gentle.
I like that.
Gentle flow. Doesn't that feel?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just this like helpful reminder in many different forms of we do have power over our own lives. And I think we've given it away way too quickly and easily. And especially as females, we are socialized to do that in a lot of ways. I think that extends regardless of other factors. And two, I think it's we're trying to do too much too fast and like do it all. So I love that word gentle. I love that word broad. I love that word slowing down, that it can be smaller, that it can be just about today and these 3 people that I know, and what, because we have so much access to so much these days that everything does feel big and like we have to be doing it all. It just amplifies any other underlying stuff that's already there. And so these are such good reminders that instead of it being like bigger, what if it's smaller? What if it's quieter? What if it's slower? And what a change that can make. But we don't give a lot of credit to those attributes sometimes. I think they're not sexy or like exciting enough sometimes.
It's the proof out there that bigger's better. Like slow down enough to say, what is operating here? Where am I going? And is this something I came up with? Or is it something I came up with 30 years ago?
Right.
5 years ago for you young ones, right? And does it work for me now? Look how much the world has changed in the last 5 years. COVID changed a lot of stuff. Are you the same rules?
Yeah.
Look, Okay, so here's some other stuff that I'm getting at,
Yeah.
right? I also like keep your eye on these words, right? Stuck, trying, because they're flags for the energy, right? Because sometimes that your body's, why are you trying to power through that?
Right.
Maybe your body's talking to you, because this is the other thing. I think we need to actually learn to listen to our bodies. I know that sounds weird. Not to children, because they're born and they just kind of do it, most of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, that's just a whole other thing. That's a series of podcasts on how we got there. But the thing is that what we'll talk about is we've stopped listening to our bodies. Flow is when we are. Now, I wanted to just add a few more things to that
Yeah.
framework we're talking about. And I love images. So I kind of sort out in my workshops, I've been sorting out like two images. The ladder. I find a lot of my clients have a framework of the ladder. Now, the thing with the ladder, and by the way, their questions come from the ladder, the way they're conceiving the issue, if there even is one. Sometimes there's no issue. It was the framework made you think there was an issue, and there was no issue.
Right.
I love bursting those because there's a lot of energy trying to solve something sometimes, and it's like, wait, I don't even want
Nothing's
this.
even wrong, or yeah, like we don't even need to be worried about this.
I can think of a more valuable role. And that happens sometimes when I'm like, look there. And half the time my clients answer their own issue when they're telling me. And I'm like, no, you said it. So it's
Yeah.
just, you know what I'm saying? I think you have humility when you're helping others, because sometimes it's not, I'm just, look there. And then you did it, but you
Yeah.
didn't know you did it. So I think that part is really beautiful. Anyway, the ladder has rungs. And people keep going and climbing. And then they always have this sense of like, I'm behind or getting ahead. And they're never there. They don't even know where it goes and how long it is. And so I find, and by the way, this happens a lot in therapy, this sort of obsession and fixation on progress. And me telling you, if you have, look, let everybody in on a secret, okay? You don't really need the therapist to tell if you're making progress. There's something wrong if it's the therapist that has to tell you that. We need to shake the whole thing up, because you're the one that's supposed to feel it first in between the sessions.
Yep.
So if we're in that dynamic and we feel like the therapist is fostering that, oh, people do something about that. Okay. All right. I think the people can hear me when I talk more quietly.
They will be able to hear.
There's that ladder thing. So here's what I'm suggesting, gently, sweetly, lovingly, is let's step away from the ladder, because what if, I'm going to mix up my metaphors, but I kind of like this one right now. What if there is no mountaintop? What the heck? What if there's no destination point? What if most people just end up dying on the ladder somewhere? Ends up feeling about where they were on the rung. What I'm suggesting, and what I'd like to gently guide people to do, I just love that word. I just want to say, like, hey, I'll start off with a whisper.
Hey.
Right? And what I see over here is water. Oh, it's beautiful water. I'm actually thinking Caribbean water beach, but that's just me.
Okay.
Blue-green water, flow. Now, by the way, obviously geography wasn't my strong point, but in my mind, it just flows one to another, and we don't know end. There is no end. There's just up. It's flatter. Up and it goes down. There are peaks, there are valleys. There are days of like more energy, there are days of less energy. We don't have to figure it out. And I think women intuitively can do this, because you know that women's bodies, we're kind of aligned to the moon. Oh, I find that really interesting.
I love that.
Women, we have power. We're aligned with the earth.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get a little bit out of my lane, right? I think that's why this, this flows sometimes into, I don't like to use the word witchcraft. I don't know about how other people use it and stuff like that, but there's a whole lot of things that are in the healing world, and they've been around thousands of years, and they're about women using their intuition and stuff like that. And I'm all for that, and I listen to that, and I support it, as long as it's not evil, right? Obviously, I watched too many silly programs growing up, but but the things I'm just saying, look, there's something to that.
There's something there. Yeah.
You can get. I know I'm not excluding men and people in general, but I'm just focusing on that today. I'm not negating it, but I think there's something to that, and I like that idea of flow. can transform everything. Because now what I'm suggesting is that we step away from good day, bad day, and just
Yeah.
good, this constant appraisal of how we're doing. What if today, and so I'm going to add something gently, especially for my neurodivergent folk. Sometimes it's a balancing act between, and by the way, this goes to something that you said, and I know that I spoke so much that you might not remember what it was, but that sort of sense of completion is spontaneity and vitality. For a lot of people, I think it's a trade of that, and I think we need both. Now,
Yeah.
some people really need in a moment or generally or something a certain kind of sense of completion, and so they want the routine and the structure for that. Nothing wrong with that. What I'm suggesting is that maybe let your energy, your inclinations, and sort of the sort of bigger picture thing sort that. And I'm suggesting that we have, I'm going to introduce another word, play.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
play, that kind of, I think we always need it, you
Yeah.
know, sort of, we need unstructured time. Not just kids, we need unstructured time. By the way, that's what I thought you were kind of maybe alluding to at 7. You just kind of want to.
Yeah, I'm up, but I don't want to, I just need to do like what I need to do, right? And I think that's something I know about myself. Other people wake up their most efficient hours of the morning, capitalize on that, right? Like, and I think another thing that ties in what you're saying is just the lack of judgment. It isn't good or bad. It isn't right or wrong. We're not judging it. It's just information and we're using it to the max capacity to help ourselves out. And then by proxy, it helps everyone else in our lives out too, right? There isn't one way. It doesn't always have to look the same. We don't have to understand it or figure it out. We know more than we think we do. So, how can we kind of like embrace that and then use that energy, match where we're at, be okay with it. It's going to get done. We're gonna like keep moving. Things are gonna happen and they're gonna happen even better and more efficiently and more rewarding than if we're again trying to like fight ourselves or come up against the blocks that are keeping us with those words stuck and that tension and like that's not a way to live, right? Like even in a hard time we don't need to feel that way, right? Like if we're really tapping into that fluidity and that energy and really being aligned with where we're at and where we're headed.
Now, some of the resistance I get when we kind of go in that direction is this. Because I imagine maybe even some listeners are thinking this right now. Well, how's that going to work? How am I going to get stuff right? And this kind of thing. And so here's what I gently want to say is that sometimes we're backing up on a rule that we've internalized and it doesn't feel comfortable letting that go. So sometimes that's about our relationship to play. And for a lot of people from childhood, that especially if they've had sort of these parentified roles, they've had long internalized these sort of rules that it's not okay.
Yeah.
Encourage people to explore, and maybe with a professional, right?
Yeah.
What is that? What is the proof of what you're saying? I'm just saying, slow down enough to say in that moment of reflection, what is your rule and where did that come from? I'm just saying, start there. Don't just start from that place of like, okay, but what is that? Look at that.
Right.
You notice sometimes people, they're quick to sort of argue, and I feel like sometimes you're holding on. I mean, you have to be sensitive to it. People are holding on to their security.
Of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Yes, with that is that maybe if your body's responding to the suggestion as a threat, okay, so maybe that's too much and too fast. I'm suggesting look at that as the framework, other than that's wrong, don't do it, and this is right, because you know what, you'll keep going in that, and you'll just continue to be stuck. Because one of the things we deserve to ask ourselves is, what are our rules, and are they working for us?
Yeah.
But you don't? Okay. Well, now we'll just start there then.
Yeah.
There's layers to this. There's layers to this. And I just wanted to add like an ADHD moment then. There's an additional thing for ADHDers and some autistics, and both, right? Where there is a tendency to have a lot more of these mandates, these internalized, right? Shoulds, gotta, whatever. There are ways that we have, without even probably thinking about it, we've grasped onto as workarounds for poor executive functioning. Okay, so again, whenever I'm talking about something, a lot of my clients have like attachment and relational wounds and trauma. So a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about can be very helpful for them. Then I kind of have to add these other things, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are not aware of like, you know, the medical model and the way that it defines certain things. I'll be honest, I think a lot of ADHD, not I think, I know, a lot of ADHDs and autistics don't recognize themselves in that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this is education around what are these traits? What does it mean in a lived experienced way? And what are we going to do with that then? Right. So to highlight there, since it came up, there are a lot of those corrective messages and they serve to because there's like memory recall and poor executive functioning and planning. So it's how we use those to get motivated and get things done. So when you're sitting in front of somebody who's not aware of that and they're saying, and usually it's preceded by just, and even if they don't say it, there's a just there. A neurodivergent mind isn't necessarily going to be able to do that. And so when they drop something, now they're going to have another problem. In fact, it's going to exacerbate the burnout. So that's why when I have like my workshops and everything, I have had to come up with things that are specifically, and sometimes it's specifically for like, if you're autistic or ADHD or for both, because and I'm saying this because this is an area where it makes a huge difference. And it's important for that. So I just wanted to introduce that. So ADHDs and autistics sometimes benefit from workarounds that might make no sense if you you don't have those experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
No. And I think it goes back to just there's no one way for all of this, right? It's going to be unique for each of us. I'm just looking at the time. I know we could totally keep talking, but what would be one last thought or piece of wisdom or a summary, a little quick takeaway that you want to leave folks with as we sort of wind down our talk today?
I find that most people intuitively know that they are not okay with where they're at or what they're doing. And I'm really encouraging people, don't ignore that, because that's a big thing. Part of how we got where we are sometimes, and by that I mean sometimes stuck, unhappy, approaching burnout, is for many different reasons. And I don't think it's also, I'm not suggesting it's intentional. We put ourselves away. Ignore that. So it's part of the beginning thing, and it's hard for people. It's hard psychologically a lot of times and emotionally to realize that you matter. And bring yourself in the foreground. Okay. So that might be where the work starts, which doesn't feel like it's the work, but really grappling with that mindset that's a thing that's okay to have. You gotta have.
Yeah.
Continue to suffer if you do not prioritize and affirm that you matter and you got to be in the picture.
Yeah.
It cannot go on.
Yeah.
Putting ourselves to the side. So that doesn't mean we come out stormbusters, but that's going to happen if we don't take some corrective measures, right?
Yeah.
But maybe we just start even with the notion that it's important not to ignore ourselves, and we've got to be a part of the picture, whether that's in our relationship, in the family, if that's your vis-a-vis your kids, letting them know that mommy needs a break.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, daddy needs a break too, or something like that. Whatever it is, we need to normalize that people matter and they need to listen to themselves. And we have to sort of find wiggle room for the loved ones in our life in particular to respect that.
I love that.
That's support.
I love that. And just to leave us with, if people want to connect with you further, I'm going to have all your links in both on this YouTube channel and in the newsletter, but is there any one thing specifically that you want to highlight, and behind you is there anything you want to highlight that you sound like you have a toolkit that I'll make sure we have, and anything else?
I mean, something I'm offering. So right now I'm on the last of a series of, they were weekly and bi-weekly workshops. I have one coming up in 2 weeks on a Tuesday, and it's the last workshop. It's free, so you just have to reach out to me, find me. Actually, if you go on my website, right, there'll be a sign up link, and then you'll get all the notices and maybe to register and everything. And the next one is going to be on shame, blame, and boundaries, right? because what I like to do is show how three things you thought were three different things will all kind of go together.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about shame, blame, and like how we can get reactive and resentful, and but we need to sort of affirm ourselves. How do we exactly do that? How do we ask for help? How? It's not just a bunch of words.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Right. That's what we're going to be talking about, and from there you can find everything else you do.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. What an incredible chat. Again, we could have gone on, but we have things to do. So, but hopefully everyone got some really great things out of this. I think it gives us some really good perspective as we continue into January and beyond. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Alisha.
Bye, everyone.